targeted industry topics on everything related to the mortgage and real estate industry. Visit keyfactorspodcast.com, where you can subscribe to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Facebook, among other platforms. Or visit reviewmymortgage.com/keyfactors and start educating yourself today. Welcome back to another episode of Key Factors Podcast. I'm your host, Mark Jones, and we are sponsored by reviewmymortgage.com, the largest index of mortgage programs nationally. And in today's episode, we're going to be talking about real estate investing. We're going to be talking about leveraging, and we're going to be talking with somebody that quit their 9-to-5 to go and do so. My first guest, Calvin Chin. How you doing?
Dude, I'm doing well, man. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And then I've also got Hiedi Zapata, locally here, realtor. Heidi.
Howdy, how are y'all?
Doing fantastic.
I should have said howdy. Now I feel out of place.
So essentially, I was introduced to Calvin by Heidi. He, at the time, was living in California and was becoming an investor. I believe at that time, you already had a couple of properties under your belt. And you were using not necessarily the BRRRR method, but you were pulling money out to go and leverage it again. And I was looking at it going, man, this guy is on the right track. Not saying he's following in my footsteps, but this is something that my wife and I used years ago to kind of get where we are. And now we've leveraged into other things. But I wanted, and for a little while now, to get you on this show so that you can tell your story, maybe give some nuggets and some advice for people out there that are potentially stuck in their 9-to-5 and wondering, how the heck do I get out of this? Where do I go? What's that like? Because people see on HDTV and everywhere else, this looks so easy, but nobody actually starts that. So that being said, Calvin, if you could, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then let's go into the background of you.
Yeah. So, I mean, you did a great job hyping me up, so I appreciate that. I think I took the path that a lot of people do take. I was taught when I was a kid that, I had to study really hard, get good grades, go to a good school, and then get a good job, and then climb that corporate ladder until I was bald, had, gray hair, 2.5 kids, and a golden retriever, right? And so that was always my metric of I thought what was successful.
Okay.
Right? So started following that. I got decent grades. I didn't get amazing grades, but got decent enough grades to go to school, right? And after school, got a good job in tech. I was living in California, so that was a prestigious job, and was making good money. But I think for the most part, what everyone kind of gets into eventually is like, man, like I can't live my life like this for the rest of my life. Like,
right.
Is my legacy gonna be that I worked at this tech job for the rest of my life? And that scared the crap out of me. So, I think after that, looked at, all right, how can we buy our time and our energy back? Right. So looked at stocks, looked at cryptocurrency, looked at real estate, and real estate was the one that actually stood out to me because I actually understood it.
And
right?
that was a question that I had for you. Why did you pick real estate, having not had a real estate background, not being a realtor, not being in insurance, anything like that? Yeah. Now, I believe you were in sales, which is how you were able to get the means to start doing things like this. And I think that's important for people to understand is you've got to focus on the one thing first that gets you the funds to propel yourself into the ability to start shaking and moving and taking risks.
Yep. And I love that you said that too. I want to add on to that because a lot of people think, oh yeah, I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to be an investor. Well, no, you still need to have some kind of leverage. You need to have capital, time, or experience, right, to be able to do something. So, I looked at my job at the time saying like, wow, like, I could just use this, and sales is a great way to make a lot of money real fast, right?
Absolutely.
You can use that and throw freaking rocket fuel on fire, right? And
let me correct that. Sales is a great way to make good money if you work your ass off.
That's true.
I mean, bottom line, there is no secrets there. You work your tail off, use different tricks and things of that nature, but you still can't do it without the hard work.
Correct. It's the ultimate trade your time for money kind of role. But you do see results if you actually go and do it too.
100%.
At the same time, everything in the world is sales, right? In real estate, in life, in your relationship. Don't tell my wife this.
It's true.
It's all sales, right?
It is true.
You kind of need all that. So I always knew like going into it, like, all right, I'm not going to be in sales forever. Right. But I do want to use this, right, to get the skills necessary and make a couple bucks along the way. And then I can start, propelling that into some real estate that can eventually buy my time back. And, that was the path. But I think the very most important thing is actually just going out and actually doing it too.
Right.
I think that's what a lot of people are like, oh, conceptually, this sounds amazing.
Right.
But you gotta freaking go do it.
Well, I mean, you have so many folks that end up going to these get rich quick seminars or leverage this and do this. and they get pumped up. They get those endorphins or whatever, the serotonin, whatever that gets pumped into them to make them feel good to keep going back to those things. But I think the statistics, like 3% actually go back and do what they say they're going to do about it.
Yeah.
And it's, I don't know, human trait or too many dangling carrots in our face these days to keep us distracted.
Yeah.
Who knows? But if you're able to break out of that monotony, you may find yourself ended up like someone like Calvin.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And it's so funny you mentioned that because we went to those seminars like me and Jenny did. And man, they definitely pump the AC to negative 20 degrees,
right.
give you as much coffee as you want, you know? And at the end, they're like, all right, well, you know, here's the thing we're going to tell you. And it's always the best thing since sliced bread. And they're like, oh, you don't have money? No worries. Just max out your credit card.
Right.
And it's
right.
like, whoa. And we did that. And
I believe
you
it.
know,
I was there too, man.
Yeah. And it's crazy that, you know, they're able to do, you know, stuff like that. But
So I guess let's start back, and I'll get into how we met and all that good stuff when we bring Hiedi to this. But when you were obviously still working for ADP doing the sales thing, that's when you began your journey, because at the same time, you still have to show income. You still have to show all of these things in order to acquire the loans and things of that nature to start with a couple of properties, right? Mm-hmm. What was that like for you?
Yeah, so actually, back to more, I actually worked at Oracle before ADP.
Okay.
And so I was making not much money there. It was my first job out of college. And then, you know, we started investing in real estate, and I was like, I'm kind of maxing on my DTI.
Yeah.
I can't really get more loans. So I need to go find a job that can pay more, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that was when I leaped on ADP and, you know, was able to, you know, put more fire in the fuel, right?
Now, did you already have the vision of doing something like this back then?
Yes. Now, I didn't think that it would take this sort of time, but
sure.
it was something like, hey, eventually, like I'd love, you know, to be able to retire and, you know, do real estate full time.
Yeah. So before we get into how we met, was there anything that you learned from your time in sales with ADP or Oracle that you then used or leveraged into what you're doing now?
Yeah, I mean, I think we mentioned one before, sales skills in general, just the ability to just meet people, talk to people, and like just network with people. I mean, this is at the end of the day a relationship-based business.
100%.
Like, people think, oh yeah, we got Zillow, we got Redfin, all this tech stuff. No. Like the best deals are still on the back of a napkin.
Mm-hmm.
Broker calls you up and says, hey, I got this block listing, right?
That's right.
And so, you know, what I learned was just pick up the phone and talk to people. You know, like build a relationship.
Correct.
Really get to know them, right, Hiedi? I remember our first conversations. It was like, oh, I want to go invest too, right? Like, oh, let's grow together, right?
Yeah.
I love that part of it too. And so that was one piece of it. The other was like time management.
Sure.
So a lot of people's limiting beliefs would be, and it was part of mine too, but I get questions like this all the time: is I don't have enough time to do this. Well, you know, you always have time for things that you prioritize. So, you know, for me, like, you know, in my sales job, you're right. If you put a lot of time and hard work in, you make a lot of money.
Right.
And so I was working like 60, 65-hour weeks on the phone at 11:30 at night, you know, and but I was still able to do real estate in between. And you find the pocket. So,
and I think it has a lot to do with priorities. I mean, if this is my main priority and the one thing that gets me to that priority, I'm going to bust my ass doing that so that I have time, because I'm going to make the time to do what I eventually, or I sought out to do.
Yeah. 100%.
So people do business with who they know, like, and trust. The transition of how I met you, which is Hiedi, let's get into that. How the heck did you guys meet? You're in California. You're here in San Antonio. What was that like?
So I actually received Calvin as a referral from his now wife, Jenny. We at the time I was on a real estate team that the team leader of my group was a Bold coach. So he was traveling to all these different cities and doing classes. I think Jenny was in the Bold class.
Yes.
And so he got Jenny's contact information, and then she sent me Calvin. I think this was in 2016, right?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay.
And this was back when, man, the market was super hot, but it was a little bit more spoiled than it is now, right?
100%. What was it, back in like 2017, 2018, something like that? No.
2016 is when
I mean, it was hot back then. Like, think about it now. It's crazy.
It's nuts.
We should have bought way more back then.
And that we are going to talk about today's current market.
Yeah. It'd be nice to chat about some of his wins too, about the market back then when we met. But that's how I met him. He was a referral from his now wife, she's a Keller Williams agent. So
Okay.
we met in person for the first time out at a family reunion.
Okay.
And I remember I was sitting next to her in a class, and I thought that, I was really, really knowledgeable in the real estate game. And then she showed me her spreadsheet. And I was like, what is that? And she's like, I think at the time, 25 years old, 24.
Something like that, yeah.
And I just remember like the light switch went off in my brain, and I was like, I love these people. I want to know a little bit more.
That's awesome.
And it was a lot of work finding them deals that met the 1% rule. I remember that you guys were very big on the 1% rule back then.
Tell us about the 1% rule.
So the 1% rule is that the rental rate needs to be 1% of the sales price or greater, which in this market, good luck finding that anymore. Now you're at like the 0.06%.
Yeah.
But so we were always looking for rentals, long-term rentals that had the 1% rule. And that's kind of how it started, because that was the beginning of your journey, I believe. Yeah.
It was. Yeah.
Okay. So from there, what you guys purchased your first one here through her? What was the situation like?
Yeah, I mean, I think to Heidi's point too, I mean, rock stars know rock stars, right? So just like how I met Heidi, how we met you, why we're even in this conversation right now.
Amen.
It's because, you talk to people, you get to know people a lot better, and they hook you up with their favorite people too, right?
That's very true.
And so, yeah, I mean, what was the question again?
I think the first one was Woodwalk.
Woodwalk,
for 127.
Yeah.
I said, how much would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck?
That was the funniest thing about Texas too. It's like all of the names of streets. I was like Woodwalk, like Smokehouse, like wow, like Barbecue Street, like,
Absolutely. So let me ask: did you start your journey living in California? Did you start purchasing properties in California, or did you seek outside because of the market and the way it was there?
Yeah, so we bought our first place in California.
Okay.
So Jenny and I, we're very competitive. We actually always kind of debate who got their first deal in California, and both of us were trying to house hack.
Okay.
Right? That was always kind of our initial thing, because hey, California is really expensive. Your mortgage is really expensive. You can limit that damage, right?
Absolutely.
Your expenses go down, and if you can keep on making more income, then you have more profit to invest in real estate. So first investment was a house hack in San Francisco.
Okay.
And then my first investment property, I would say, was actually in Dallas,
Okay.
Texas.
Very good. So I want to take it back to the house hack.
Yeah.
To give the listeners what the hell house hack means.
Yeah.
I can give you several, but let me hear one from you.
Yeah, so house hack basically just means, you buy a place, maybe it has multiple rooms, maybe it's a duplex or fourplex, right? And you rent out all the other places, right? So let's say your mortgage is $5,000 a month. You rent out the other places for, you have 3 other bedrooms, you rent it out for $1,000, $1,000, $1,000, $1,000. That means they're paying $4,000 of your $5,000 mortgage, right? And so you're limiting your expense. And that's what, at the time for me, I was living in San Francisco, renting with 5 other guys. Total fraternity house. It was real messy, real nasty. And I was paying, I think, like $1,500, $1,600 a month, right?
Out of the whole, yeah.
Yeah, bought a place, condo, really expensive. So 1 bedroom and a den. It wasn't even 2 bedroom. It was a 1 bedroom and a den, which literally had a carpet or a curtain room.
Drape,
a drape as a room. And my mortgage was like $2,000 with HOA, and I was renting out the den for $1,200.
Very
so
cool.
then I went from $1,500 to $800 of my expense, but
Total,
I was also getting the equity pay down. I was getting the depreciation. I was getting the appreciation as well, so that you can leverage that for later on the road.
And I love that, because I've been talking about this a lot recently. And reason being is our market, I'm not going to say it's fully dry, but to the consumers out there that are first-time home buyers, they're not finding properties in their price range. They're gone.
Yeah.
So something that you can do to combat that is utilizing house hacks. Guys, if you qualified, let's say for 200, but there's nothing in your price range, let's bump that up to 300 or 400 and utilize the rent schedule for the properties, maybe duplex, quadruplex. As long as you're living in one of the units and your intent is to do so, you just made yourself an investor as a first-time buyer.
Yeah.
You know, and that stuff is powerful. I mean, I talk about it a lot on Millennial Market Talk, and hopefully that message is getting out there, because if you don't start to get creative, if you don't start to get out of your comfort zone in this market, you're going to be left renting for a while.
Yeah.
Probably from Calvin.
Yeah, you're right, dude. The wealth gap is getting bigger and bigger.
Absolutely.
If you're in the middle, you're getting squeezed down, and the people who have had assets are getting they're crushing because inflation and all hard assets are just going up like crazy.
That is very true.
Yeah.
If I may touch real quick, I think my little niche in real estate has been because of Calvin. From the beginning. I've grown so much as a real estate agent.
Right.
And my clients right now, I've got clients that are looking for single family as, their first or second home purchase. They talk about cash out refinances, just everything that I've learned from you over the years, I've applied to my real estate business, and I've educated many and inspired many based on what I've learned from you.
Right. Because it's a 100% true story,
And I love that. I love that because it's making an impact on other people. Because if you can come in, especially as an agent and even as a lender too, it's like if you can come in as a consultant that knows how to invest too, it's like that's such a huge value add because for the most part, I mean, when people buy their primary home, that's probably their biggest asset or biggest spend they're ever going to do in their lives.
Right.
And they want someone to guide them toward that.
Well, and they always think too that that's going to be their first and last property. And I've planted seeds with so many people that like, hey, maybe, and this was from you, but the 3 to 5 years, you're going to have equity in that home. And if you don't want to sell it, maybe you want to rent it out, or maybe you do want to sell it. You want to pull the equity out. There's so many options that most real estate agents are just trying to do the sale. Right.
Absolutely.
And I've learned so much on the investing side. Just in this
well,
journey,
I mean, you can have a customer
honestly.
for this transaction, or you can have a customer for life.
Correct.
You know, and that I think is what separates a lot of folks that are going to remain in the business as we move forward, and those that are going to go back to what they did before they jumped into this real estate boom.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So before we get into what you're doing now, I want to talk about how you acquired these properties. Folks that are listening, they're going, well, wait a minute. This guy that worked at ADP or Oracle made enough money to start leveraging and buying all these properties, and now he's got over 100 and something doors. How did he do that?
Yeah, so I mean, even my own limiting beliefs too, where okay, like you can save and buy, right? And that's what I thought. I'll just make good money and I'll save and I'll buy and I'll save and buy. That's you'll hit a limit no matter what,
right?
And I think what really differentiates a true real estate investor versus someone who gets there and then can't go anymore because they don't understand is understanding that, because you're going to have three main things that I've seen so far that, is kind of the roadblock. One is debt to income. Second is liquidity. And then third is deal flow.
Yeah.
Right. And so I hit all of those where it was like, oh crap, I'm out of deals.
Number 4, max finance properties.
Yeah. Fannie and Freddie. So, I mean, getting creative and just understanding one education part of, okay, what other places are out there? Like, once you hit your Fannie Freddie loans, those are the best kind of loans. If you can do them. Right. But once you hit a mark, you can't. There's other stuff out there. There's the DSCR loans. There's commercial loans. There's, taking out your portfolio, moving into commercial loans, things like that. So there's always going to be something. You just got to know what it is. And the second is liquidity. Same thing, right? Okay, well, now you have to start building a network. All right, if I'm doing deals, do I have people, private money lenders? Do I have partners that have capital that don't have capital? And then third is the deal flow, right? We'll get good at that. I mean, I think that's probably the number one skill you can have, working with good brokers, working with partners, vendors that would know where to find deals, and doing your own off-market stuff.
Do you work with some wholesalers, things of that nature?
Wholesalers too, yeah, absolutely. Don't love wholesalers right now. Even funny story, last year we were looking at a wholesale deal, and it was like, I forget, I think it was like they were asking for a 170 or something like that. And I was like, oh, this is pretty. Rehab. Yeah. Pretty, and they're like 20K rehab, blah blah blah, and then I bid on it at the number that worked for me, and it actually went for like 80K over. And I was like, this is a wholesale deal. I gotta outbid people by 50%.
I thought we were the inside man on this. That's sad.
Yeah,
wow,
so that was the market last year,
and that's crazy because everybody's getting a little greedy right now, pushing those values higher and higher and higher. Is it derived from the lack of inventory? Is it derived from new construction, home sales? Who knows, but it's happening and we've got to deal with it. And that being said, I mean, when you established a couple of these properties, did you then take them and leverage, like I'm typically would explain to customers, take that, get your value out of it, pull it out, and go and leverage that to another property?
Yeah, 100%, right? So, yeah, you're right. I always look at it as you're planting multiple seeds. Every time you buy a property, that's a seed. Yeah. Oh, another property, that's another seed. And then it's going to grow. It may not be right away. A lot of people think, it grew. It should have grown yesterday. No, that's not right. It grows over time, and once it starts to fruit, pick the fruit, and guess what? Plant it again, and build another one. And that's how you really build net worth.
That's a very layman, very simple explanation of a big concept, and I love it. Yeah, that's a great way to put that.
Yeah.
So when you had these, I guess, a couple properties, you then shifted into acquiring apartment complexes. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah.
Tell me about that. That's the part I don't know about at all. I have a cousin that actually used to do the same thing, but we've never chatted about that because I really haven't had an interest in that
Right.
as a whole.
Right.
I think maybe it's because I'm here in San Antonio. There isn't much of that kind of market, but at the
Right.
same time, who knows? So tell me about that.
So the reason why we went there, and actually Parkview was actually one of the big reasons. A deal that Heidi sold me. So, yeah, so it was a BRRRR project, and we did a great deal, by the way. Can't find those anymore. It was a $72K deal. It's worth like $200K now.
Is that the one with the foundation issues or some kind of issues?
Had some foundation,
plumbing. Right?
Oh, no,
plumbing.
It was
That's
plumbing.
right. Okay,
yeah.
gotcha.
Yeah, red shag carpet. All the good stuff.
That's the first red shag carpet, and I just recently sold another red shag
Really?
carpet that you'd have loved. Yeah.
Give me all the red shag carpet ones. I'll buy all of them. That one, it was I think we took like 5 to 6 months to do the BRRRR renovation and refinance all our money out. And then at the end of it, it was like, all right, cool. Cash flow is about $100, $150 a month. And I was like, oh my God, like how many of these am I going to have to do to get to my goals? And I was like, you know what? I can't just do these small projects anymore. I gotta go bigger, right? And the only thing that was holding me back at the time was just fear, right?
Okay.
It's another zero, right? Another comma to it.
Yeah.
And so, I kind of started manifesting. I'm going to buy an apartment complex this year. I'm going to buy an apartment complex this year. And so now, and finally, I love that because, you tell yourself that subconsciously it's going to start looking for that more, right?
100%.
I remember an opportunity that came up probably 2 years prior to that. We were going right over my head. I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. Too scared. When this opportunity came up, I was like, jumping on, let's go, right? And so that's how we got an apartment complexes. Now we do basically apartment complex BRRRRs. The whole concept of BRRRRs come from commercial anyways. It's the same concept.
Absolutely.
Right? They just trademarked the residential side of it, called
Right.
a BRRRR. But yeah, so we do apartment complex commercial deals now where, we're going in, we're renovating, we're getting rents up, getting NOI up, and then refining out in a year, maybe a year and a half, and getting our money back out and doing it again. And
what's NOI?
Net operating income. So
Okay.
basically your gross income, which is your rents, plus, if you have laundry income, if you have, storage unit income, whatever it is, minus all your expenses, operating expense. It doesn't have debt service though.
Gotcha.
Just expenses.
So cash flow.
Cash flow, essentially. Yeah.
AKA.
Commercial.
Yeah.
You had mentioned something that I'm not privy to. DSCR.
Yeah. So debt service coverage ratio loans.
Okay.
Right. So I don't know if this is new or not, but like,
is it we consider it non-QM or loans that we don't sell on the secondary market, but at the same time, I only do residential. So the commercial side of things, I'm not going to say it's totally a unicorn for me, but 100% that's how it would.
Well, are the DSCR for commercial only?
No, it's for residential too.
I would imagine so. Cash flow type situation.
Exactly. Yeah. So they look at, most lenders would say we need a 1.25 DSCR loan, and what that would mean is you do the loan, but it'd be recourse one, so not recourse. And then you look at your bank statements. That's all they look at. They don't even look at your income. So when people get stuck, and when people say, "Oh, I can't make enough money. I don't make tech money." Blah blah blah.
Right.
That's a lie. Just go find a good deal, and then the bank will actually underwrite it too, and say, you know what, this actually meets the 1.25, or some banks will go down to 1, whatever it is, and they'll do the deal after that. So,
and I think if there is a deal to be had, no matter what your situation, there are investors out there that may give you a shot.
Yeah.
It just depends on what the ask is and what they're getting in return for that to make sense for you.
That's why it's recourse.
Absolutely.
Right. And that's also why they charge pretty high percentage. It's not like as much as a hard money loan, but if rates were a 4, it's probably at a 5.
Oh, that's not bad at all. Actually,
it's not at all.
No.
I mean, I remember back in the day we were getting like 5.5% on fourplexes, and I was like, I'll take that.
See, and we're doing our flips with the hard money lender. We've gotten them down to about 7% on the interest rate, just because we use them over and over.
Yeah.
And that, to me, that's no problem.
Yeah.
I'd rather use their money than my money so that we can then leverage our money and purchase more properties.
Correct.
you
yeah.
know?
100%.
So,
being creative like that.
100%.
So you can use the DSCR on flips as well, or is this buy and hold?
I mean, you could if the bank will finance it. I mean, if it's a
and are they offered by a bank or more so private investors?
I'm pretty sure they're more private investors.
Okay, gotcha. That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So it's non-QM or your portfolio type loans.
Yeah, Wells Fargo is not going to do that kind of loan.
No. Wells Fargo doesn't need to do those kind of loans.
Exactly.
Bottom line.
Exactly.
But it sounds like that is a great outlet for getting the things done that you're doing now because you've already done it.
Yeah, potentially if you need to. I mean, I do more commercial loans now, DSCR or DCR or debt service coverage ratio is a big part of commercial loans too.
Yeah,
but they're just commercial loans, right? Like they'll still look at 1.25, credit unions, things like that. But but for a residential person that is looking to do deals, and they're like, I have a house, let's say in the Bay Area where it's a $2 million house, and I don't have any more DTI left. Well, a DSCR loan could help you get a property if you find the right property.
Right, and I think it does have a lot to do with the right property, because they look at the value of the property, potential cash flow that you could make on it. They'll probably look at the experience that you have. They'll look at the bank statement to make sure that you do have actual cash flow coming in, and you're not blowing your wad every time it does come in. But that seems like a fantastic outlet for someone like that. And I can't say for those of you that are just getting started, you definitely need to utilize your Fannie Freddie type outlets, then your non-QMs, and then you go into the DSCRs, where you're looking at bigger projects, bigger risk, bigger reward.
Bigger risk, bigger reward. But yeah, you're right. Fannie Freddie all day if you can. If you max it out and then go to that. And even that, maybe you get a portfolio loan, take all those out of your personal name into a commercial loan, and then do more Fannie Freddie.
Right.
That's also a good strategy too. It just really depends on your end goal and how fast you want to get there.
Absolutely. So what is your end goal? You said that. I mean, what's your end goal? This is not the end of the podcast, but what's your end goal?
Well, I mean, for us, we've kind of taken this journey where I know in the very beginning of our investing journey, we were very much like, all right, achievement focused, right? It was like, how much cash flow can we get? How many doors can we get? How much money can we make? And I remember in like 2019 was like a big year where, a lot of people want to get invested. They're like, all right, if I have 10K a month of passive income coming in, I'll be happy, right?
Right.
And I was definitely that person. I was like, oh, man, 10K would be great. I'll retire.
I said the same thing when I hit $100,000 in income. I got it made.
I got it made. Yeah. And then what happened? You hit it.
I wanted more.
Yeah. You want more.
I wanted so much more.
Exactly. And that's what happened. Was the same thing. Is you get it and you're like, now what? Mm-hmm. Right. And I thought it'd be like sunshines and butterflies and things like that, and it wasn't. It was just the same old day, right? You're still watching Netflix on the couch doing nothing.
Yeah.
And what I found out was like we really have a purpose, right? Like the I guess second mountain in life is all about legacy and all about impact and stuff. And I was like, what? Like, it's always been about us, me. Like, what can we do to help other people like make an impact on this world, right? And to that point, we're like, wow, like this real estate thing's been pretty good to us. What if we can teach other people how to do the same thing, right? And then they can go teach someone else, and they can go teach someone else, right? And then there's a compound effect impact. Just like Heidi mentioned earlier, hey, things that she learned from both of us,
right?
She was able to communicate that to her clients, and then they got taught that, and they're probably going to tell their kids or whatever.
Absolutely.
And so yeah, I mean that's kind of our main like end goal now. It's more purpose driven of like, all right, well, how many lives can we impact by teaching them how to leverage real estate as a vehicle and money as a vehicle to get their time and energy back?
Right.
So if I were to quantify more metrics, if we can help 1,000 families create passive income so that they can go create passive impact in their communities and their lives,
right?
Then that's kind of my end goal.
I love that. I love that. I think it's and I think at a certain level, obviously depending on what you're doing, but when you come from very little humble background, you get to this point and you want to find some way to give it back to them. Yeah. It doesn't necessarily mean stroking a check and giving it to a charity. It can mean putting your feet on the ground and showing people, hey, this is the path that I left. You guys can follow it, ask questions along the way, but I'm going to take a service charge if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
Boom. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
Especially if your intentions are 100% pure and good.
Right. Value for value. Right. And, one of our students a couple years ago came up to us and was like, grown man in tears, right? With his now wife. He's like, you guys, Calvin, Jenny, you guys are changing my life. Right. And that like hits you right here, right? Right in the cortisone, right? Like totally different. Yeah, more than any kind of check that you ever get.
That is very true. So now that you've got plenty of years of leveraging, purchasing these investment properties, using them to leverage to purchase more, you're now teaching people, and you founded a company called Zen
Coast University.
There you go. Zen Coast University. I like that name. Where did the name come from?
Oh, man. Honestly, it was our first LLC that we ever went. We went to one of these seminars, and I was like, max out your credit card, blah, 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 right? So we did that, and we're like getting all excited about the concept of being real estate investors, and we're like, all right, let's start a company, an LLC. Right. We'll get business cards, all the things that you shouldn't be focused on. You're focused on getting a freaking deal.
No, I get it.
So we dropped a bunch of money on creating an LLC, even though we didn't have any real estate at the time. And we were like, what is a cool name? Like, what represents us? Like, all right, we're Asian. Like, Zen's pretty cool.
Yeah.
We live on the coast. Zen coast. All right.
Boom. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's
so
awesome.
we created our first LLC from that. Jenny now runs her team, Keller Williams Zen Coast Homes. Zen Coast University is our education arm, and then Zen Coast Capital is our real estate.
Very good portfolio. Yeah. We have our real estate portfolio LLC, and it's Co Jones Ventures.
Yeah.
And we're in San Antonio. So in Spanish, Co Jones Ventures is really Cojones Ventures.
I was like, what is that?
That's a nugget for you guys out there listening. Not too many people know that.
Wordplay.
That's right.
Actually, I have a funny story about that too. So I mentioned Jenny and I are very competitive, and
no
way, right? So we were both in sales back in the day. She was in real estate sales, I was in tech sales, and we always had the standing bet of like, all right, who can make more money this year, right? And the winner would have to, or the loser would have to buy the winner an investment property.
Okay.
Right. So
win-win.
Yeah.
It's California community property.
What's that? Yeah, right. Exactly. Right. That's what we want in Texas.
That's awesome. It's still community property.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome.
Exactly. So, so I created an LLC that was.
Who won?
Jenny won the first year. I won the second, and she won the third. And now we kind of debate of how you actually calculate it, because now I do all the property, so it's now we're married. It's a team thing.
Yeah, there you go.
We're changing it to more collaborative versus competitive.
I like that.
But we called it Bay Properties, and
That's
then
cute.
BAE though, and so a lot of people, you're spelling Bay wrong. I'm like,
No, you don't get
it's
it.
exactly what it is.
That's right. That's awesome. That is a pretty cool concept, and it keeps everything fun.
Yeah,
it truly does, because what we do, I will be honest with everybody out there, it's stressful. It's stressful. You're dealing with a lot of money, a lot of decisions, a lot of people's lives, a lot of risk.
Well, in his case, buying from across state.
Oh man,
I was his eyes and ears, and
you got to be trustworthy.
I mean, I'm honored to have been trusted by you, but I've also done my best to represent you from afar.
Yeah,
but also from Zen Coast, I think one of my most favorite clients recently was Jay and.
Oh, I love them.
Carolina and Charity, and they flew out to meet me first and took me out for wine at the Pearl and looked at houses in person, and they were just the coolest people. It was their first investment property, and so what you've built at Zen Coast, and they're not the only students that he sent to me, but all of his students are so motivated and they are growing together as a community. So I already know that what you're doing out there is.
Yeah.
So
and I want to show you this real quick, because they texted this to me a couple days ago. Maybe yesterday actually. It was them and another student of ours that. But it shows like the impact. It's a picture of their family at the pool with another student's family at the pool. Their cousins actually.
The network that they're building.
Yeah, and they're just saying the conversations are just different, right? And
so those of you out there listening, I'm holding in my hand a picture of a family that's having a great time around this pool, and it says, "We got a family visit. Even our conversations are different. Thanks to what Zen Coast taught. Thank you." And that is super impactful, like you said. I mean, it's confirmation that what you're doing is helping others. And it's also affirmation that you're going to keep doing what you're doing.
Right.
And
the coolest thing about that text was, what I saw there was their kids were all around there. Yeah. Right. So they're getting exposed to this. Can you imagine that? Like, you were getting exposed to this at like 5 years old, 10 years. I mean, I was not thinking about any of that stuff,
you're
right?
correct.
Like,
yeah.
Yeah. And you're like, wow, you're starting to think in different ways.
But keep in mind, my kids are, your kids are
my
100%.
Knows a lot of your stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
how
those
cool,
things
how
stick.
cool is that,
It's
right?
Super cool.
Because they're going to be in high school. They can choose to go to college. I told my wife all the time, like, my kid wants to go to college. They can if they want to have fun. But like, I don't need them to.
I
right?
love that concept.
Yeah.
And if you want to, and my kids, when you play this back, you can pay for it yourself just like I did.
Exactly.
Whether you finish or not, I don't care. It's on your dime.
Yeah. Hey, it's very fun though. You should definitely go.
No, the concept of college. Do you have a college degree?
I do.
Okay, very good. And was it in sales?
It was in business, which is basically sales. There's no major for, but business generally is just sales.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I like the concept and philosophy that you have behind that, even though you did go to college. I went to college 5 years, never graduated, but took every bit of what I learned. But mostly probably the relationships that I formed, the circles that I ran with. I'm still running with those same circles to this day. Yeah. And we're growing our spheres of influence. We are looking for like-minded individuals that can take those risks with us. And if we're jumping into another risk, hey, have you guys ever been here before? And we can kind of rap about that.
Yeah.
You know?
Or do you know someone who has, right?
100%.
The more people you know, the more people they know, right?
That's
You don't have to do
true.
everything yourself.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah.
So with the Zen Coast, what are you guys doing there? What is it? Seminars? Is it coaching? What is that?
I mean, on a very high level, it's coaching
Okay.
on real estate investing. But really, if I were to break it down more, it's about creating like a transformation of your identity into a real estate investor. Because I know when I was still in my W-2, my identity, and not everyone's identity is their occupation. Mine was, right?
Right.
Unfortunately. And so I was so wrapped around like, I'm a tech guy. Like, that's who I am. I'm so proud of that, blah, blah, blah. That's why people are proud of me. And my self-worth was so wrapped around there. And so like what we're trying to do is break that down into like the transformation of like, no, I'm someone who's financially free. I'm someone that is a great father. I'm someone who can spend time with their family. That's a new identity.
I love
right?
that.
And so at the core, yeah, sure, we're gonna teach you how to actually invest in real estate. But everyone does. You can go on YouTube. You find all that stuff.
Correct.
But really what we're trying to do is create human beings that work together, right, to be able to be better people in general. Because what you use the real estate for, that's something entirely different. Like people can go and, be bad people with, money. But if you can teach people to be abundant leaders at the very core, at the very beginning, right, then you're creating leaders in their communities that are inspiring people, that are making an impact on other people. And I think that to me is something special.
I agree 100%. I mean, it's definitely not Scientology. Sorry.
You're watching. I'm from California, man. You're watching.
I'm right there with you. So that's a great transition or segue into the current market. You're still in California, right?
Yeah, still
You're traveling the country. You're doing what you're doing. What's the market like over there?
In California?
Yeah.
So in the city itself, it's definitely slowed down. Okay. There's a huge urban clutter to get out of there. So San Francisco core, just the condo market's really slowed down. I had a condo. I tried to sell it to like 6 months, which is crazy. But real estate in general is hot still. Like all the surrounding areas, even homes in San Francisco proper, are really expensive still. Right. And, I always say, like, people are always like, what market do I go to? Yeah, you can look at some metrics for sure. Look at overall health, right? Multiple industries, jobs, what's the city planning and things like that. But, for the most part, like any market that you want to invest in is crazy hot. Low supply, high demand, low labor, high costs. Everything's going on right now.
I agree.
Which is why it's been pushing up like crazy. So
and I do these daily updates, and I'm doing my best to stay daily, but they're more like every other day daily mortgage updates.
Yeah.
But I'm reading a lot of information about people are leaving California in droves. But what I think we don't understand is there's still tons of people that are going to California in droves.
Yeah. So that was someone was mentioning that to me the other day too. It's like, yeah, people are leaving. For sure.
100%.
A lot of people in Austin, a lot of people in Colorado, Utah, all that stuff. But there's a crap ton of people coming here. I can't tell you how many people are moving to California that I'm like, oh, yeah, great. Because at the end of the day, you wake up still and it's 72 degrees every day. You're like, wow.
This is nice.
All right, yeah, I see why. I mean, why people want to move to California in the 80s and 90s. It was the dream of California, right?
Absolutely.
It's still there.
Yeah.
Right? It's just, politically, maybe it's, not as
It's not the taxes. Let's put it that way.
It's not the taxes why people go there. But if you can afford to live there and you can use tax strategies to, lower your tax bill, if you will, then, you can make it work. Right? Live the lifestyle you want to live by design.
Absolutely. I like that, by design. Yeah.
I wanted to add, while you guys were talking about California and different places, actually one of your students, Ray, reached out to me this morning. He had taken a pause and then told me that he bought in Utah. He bought 2 new builds in Utah. And I know that you've got properties out in Kansas and Alabama, and I don't even know where else yet. But where do you decide what state? Because I know that this is a hot nationwide problem with our market. Like, how are you choosing the locations for your students and for yourself?
That's a good question.
Yeah, really good question. So a couple of things, right? So one thing is people get hung up a lot on just the market analysis, right? So again, like I'd say, hey, do the high level overview of like, all right, is there good, healthy metrics, population growth, like multiple jobs, all that stuff. But then like nowadays I've kind of shifted more toward, all right, what's my competitive advantage in that area? Do I have the right team to take down a deal there, right? That's really more important to me than anything. I don't have a team in Montana, right? So even if a good deal comes to me, I'm like, I don't know if I can take that down because I don't know if I have the team out there.
Right.
But, places that are brand new to me, we just took a deal down in Chattanooga, an apartment complex out there. And I felt confident to do it because I had the team to be able to take that down.
Right.
Right. So to me, I just asked yourself the question, what's my competitive advantage in that area? As long as it really hits the high level metrics, the data points that say, all right, this is going to be a healthy economy. Why I love San Antonio actually was, I came here was, I thought there was going to be a recession like, 5 years ago when I met you. And I was like, all right, I don't want this to stop me from getting into real estate, but I want to protect myself from the downside. Like Warren Buffett says, hey, protect yourself from the downside, right? And so I found that the median home prices during 0809 in San Antonio was negative 0.02%. So it barely moved, right? It just stayed flat. And I was like, all right, that sounds like a pretty safe market.
Stable.
Yeah, pretty stable market. And I was like,
after the crisis.
Exactly. And I was like, all right, I could dig that. So like things like that, those kind of metrics, if you look at that, checks the box. All right, second box, what's my competitive advantage? Do I have the team out there? Can I build a team out there and take a deal down like what I'm trying to do? And
when you say team, I wrote that down here.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? What kind of team goes into what you're doing?
Yeah, 100%. So, for example, we have a deal in Alabama, right? It's down to the studs, fire damage, all that stuff. Do I live in Alabama?
No.
Do I know how to change a light bulb? Barely, right? So that team could be, hey, we have a partner in the deal who's awesome at construction, right? And so he's the partner that is taking care of construction. So you know your strengths. And, in the beginning, you're an investor, you basically do everything, right? I remember in Kansas City, I was self-managing, getting my butt kicked. Oh, my God, it sucked. Yeah. But you kind of have to go through the ringer, right? And you're doing everything.
Is your construction manager traveling to the jobs, or you've got him in those states?
He's traveling in the job. So he lives in the Midwest South area. So he's kind of driving around to all the job sites, and then he has people underneath him that he manages. Blah blah blah. So yeah, it's a team, a company.
And I want to emphasize the fact that as an investor, when you first start out, you are the team.
Yeah.
And I think that's super important and crucial to the progression of you as an investor and how you grow, because if you're not able to have experienced those things on your own, it's tough for you to get the advice to go and do that. Great. Yes, you can, but you'll never really understand the underlying reason as to why they're doing that, or how tough it was, or how much you should pay somebody for that, et cetera, et cetera.
You definitely get more compassion about it. You're like, well, I understand it because I was getting my butt kicked about it too. So I understand why it's, that's the way you do it, right? But also, what to look for and what you don't like.
Right.
As well. I think that's a huge part.
I agree 100% with that. I mean, there's just so many times when people will say, I've got a team, but they haven't done a deal yet. And it's like, okay, so your team, number one, do you trust them? Yeah. Number two, do they know what they're doing? Number three, do you know what it costs to do whatever it is that you're doing, having them do?
Right. I always say, like, you are the CEO of your portfolio, right? So you have to manage your people, right? And that means, like, all right, one, being clear about the end goal, right? And also being clear about, like, all right, what are we looking for? What are the KPIs? And what is a good deal? What's not a good deal? And also, don't waste my time.
What's a KPI?
Key performance indicator. So, like, the 1% rule. That was a KPI back in the day that helped you to say, all right, this is a deal for Calvin and Jenny or not.
Right.
If someone asked me for the 1% rule today, I'm going to hang up.
I'll call you back.
Opportunity. It could be, who knows, another Calvin. You never know.
No, I'm just
you can
joking.
make the 1%. Be like, hey, it's not 1% when you buy it, but after you do renovations, blah, blah, blah.
3 to 5 years from now, maybe?
Yeah, maybe so.
Rents are going up.
Yeah. Not fast enough, though.
No.
It's true. I mean, back to the San Antonio thing. I mean, San Antonio and surrounding areas, minus with the exception of Austin. This is where everybody goes when the recessions hit. This is where everybody goes when inflation. Right now, we're at like an 8%, knocking on 9, 10, 11% inflation.
Yeah.
This is where people come. And if you have the means and access, why not get into this market so that you can potentially not only help somebody, but also profit from it?
Yeah.
I see nothing wrong with that. That's called good capitalism.
Right. And I forget who said, it might be Confucius. I don't know, one of these old philosophers. He says, hey, the best time to buy real estate was 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Second best time is right now.
Right?
Because if you look at it as a long-term deal, like, you're always going to be happy about it. No one's mad about buying real estate 10 years ago, right? Especially when it's a high inflation market.
It's true. It's true.
I'm not mad about buying 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you look at, I have this conversation so often is I want to wait until they come down. Rates come down, values come down. Newsflash, Texas, they've never gone backwards. So where you are today is the lowest it's going to be in the future.
Yeah.
I think you actually gave me the lowest rate possible on my refinance in November, and I'm so happy because it's doubled since then.
It actually has.
It's doubled since November.
Yeah. And I love what you said there too. It's like people try to time the market. Like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know you were a freaking genius.
Guru.
You have a crystal ball.
Yeah,
like,
you know something I don't.
Yeah, I don't have a crystal ball.
That's right.
I've heard a lot that people want to wait for prices to go down, and I said, good luck.
Yeah.
Because right now I feel like in our market, pretty soon there isn't going to be under 300,000 anymore.
I'll agree.
I think that's changing, and I also don't think that prices are going to go backwards. I've never seen that because of the supply issue. With rates going up and prices going up, people are going to want to stay put.
And well, I'm not seeing the fact that rates are going up affecting people wanting to buy. They're still pushing past. It has a lot to do with the inventory or lack of inventory. I was watching a YouTube video the other day, and they're talking about investors are taking over the market. And they said it's a bad thing because they come in and they purchase it and then they raise the price on it. Yes, they do, because they have to make a profit, or else they would not, the seller, or I'm sorry, the buyer in the end would not have this home to be able to purchase.
Right.
Why? Because most buyers can't go and renovate a home day one.
Right.
You know, so those things do cost money.
Yeah. And it's I always change the mindset of like, it's not like you're taking advantage of someone. Like you're giving someone money for what the deal was worth.
Correct.
Right? And then you're making our neighborhood better. You're making a better place for family to live. Like sometimes we're in areas where, you know, we're making properties there where it's like, this is a safer, nicer area for now a new family to come in and live at.
Take a look at Denver Heights.
Yeah, Denver Heights is
true.
Crazy.
Very true.
Yeah.
But also just in this market too, when they want to wait for rates to go down or they want to wait for the prices to chill out, I just tell them I wouldn't give up right now. I would do everything you can to continue to achieve your goal of investing or homeownership right now, because we don't know if it's going to chill out or go down. It could get worse for a significant amount of time in the future. You might just, you have to encourage people so much right now. So your job is as a coach.
You could get stuck.
And as a lender and as a realtor.
Forever. And I think as us in our position, a lot of folks see the encouragement or the, I'm just going to say education of it, because that's what we're doing, as a sales tactic. At the end of the day, how else do you want it? You serve it up on a platter.
I think that's true to an extent, but a lot of the people that I've worked with in the beginning that maybe had that perception have learned that I really do have their best interest at heart.
Right.
And when I tell them, like, don't quit. I've had a client this year, it's just like, do not quit. Keep going, because she lost 3 houses in a row going 25,000 above in the 240 range. And I said, one of them's going to stick. You just got to keep trying. She's like, well, I don't want to overpay. I'm like, you're going to gain that equity back in 6 months.
Right.
Just don't quit.
Yeah. Don't quit and just hold, and you never lose.
Right.
You can hold and don't over leverage yourself, which is why, why people think, and why I still think that there's not going to be a housing bubble is because, like you and your team, you guys put me through the ringer, right? During underwriting. It's like, they didn't do it back in the day. It's like, oh, send me new docs. There's some new docs. Hey, we need this. We need this. It's like, all right, like, it sucks, but it's good in the long run, because what it does, it protects, from what happened in 08, 09 when people were giving bad loans out to people who had no money. When people were, your Uber driver's like, yeah, I just bought an apartment complex. You're like, oh, wow. Oh.
Exactly. Now, we weren't in the market at that time. Matter of fact, I was a banker at Chase. And seeing these things, it was like, wow, how can people do that? Then I jumped into this side, and I've got all the old dogs telling me how that happened and took place. But I look at the way that we've loaned money out for the last 10 years, and you're correct. You hit it on the head.
It's mega regulated.
There is a reason why we are still at a lowest rate of foreclosures ever. The rate of foreclosures, the rate of loans in default went up during the pandemic, and that was typically, it is a bummer. I know that. But at the same time, you're finding that most folks did take care of the forbearance. They did utilize the tools that were given to them and are now caught up and back to work and everything else. Yeah. It's just looking at the statistics going, oh, wow, I thought there was going to be a crash. Well, you can keep wishing in one hand and something in the other and see which one fills up quicker.
It's hard to lose your house when the government's giving you checks every month and your equity in your home went up by double. It's hard to lose money that way.
I agree.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. Just refi and you have more runway there.
So, Calvin, before we wrap this thing up, we're doing good on time. Is there anything that you can give in way of advice? Something, I call them potholes or landmines that I've stepped on, you may have stepped on, and we don't want others to step on the same thing because, we've only got 2 feet and we want to keep on rolling.
Yeah. Kind of to your 2-foot metaphor, just take it one step at a time, right? You just got to go do it. And a lot of people focus a lot on the outcome. I got to hit 30K passive income a month, right? Oh my God, that's so much, right? Yeah. But if you think like that, it's going to scare you away. I'm like, it's too much. It's too big. I can't do that. But just think about, all right, what do I have to do right now? All right, I got to call Hiedi up. That's the only thing I got to do this week.
Right.
That seems something that I can do. And I keep on doing that every week. Then eventually I'm going to wake up one day and say, oh, I'm at that goal.
Yeah.
Right. So one thing at a time.
I like that.
Also, don't hire contractors that get deported.
Oh yeah. Hey, that was your recommendation.
Wow.
I know that was.
No, I'm kidding.
Well, I gave you a couple recommendations. You went with the cheapest.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't he? Come on now.
He was. Yeah. Now that was also a lesson to learn. There is you don't go with the cheapest always. But he was also the most responsive, the most everything. Like he was on top of it until he wasn't.
Until he was deported. He might have finished if he wasn't deported, right?
I don't know. I can't say that for a fact,
knows?
but learning lesson for sure.
Don't worry, I'll cut all of this out, guys. Just kidding. I'm kidding. Oh man.
Learning lesson for me too, because I had never used that contractor that I referred.
But learning lesson there too is, we had the right contracts in place where we didn't lose that much money by not having by him getting deported. We just lost time, which sucks.
Yeah.
Right. Now it was cool because I controlled the draws, I controlled the supplies, so it was under my name. So I had that all Home Depot lined up. So when he left, it sucked because I didn't have a contract there, and it took him like 2 weeks to email me from Mexico to say, "Hey, I was deported."
Yeah.
So I lost.
Email while you're, I guess, deported.
I mean, I'm sure he had some kind of laptop or something. I have no idea. He got to me somehow. He actually did message me the other day. He's like, "I'll make it up to you." I'm like, "Don't
worry."
All right, we'll see about that, but whatever.
So before I wrap it up, Calvin, do you have any situations in which you could potentially give the folks out there that was a nightmare, something that went wrong that they can learn from? Does that make
situation
sense?
Right there.
Touche.
Is that the worst one that you've had?
That was probably one of the worst. Okay, I have one that's probably even worse. So when we were just starting out,
okay,
and full vulnerability, we read the books, we listened to the podcasts, and we're like, maybe we know the concept of it, but I still felt not confident at all in doing it. And so what we did was we actually found a local flipper in San Francisco, and we're like, we'll be your private money lender.
Okay,
and that way we'll be real estate investors.
Oh, no.
Gotcha.
Right? And so me and Jenny had about $100K saved up from our tech jobs and stuff. So we're like, all right, here's $100K, and didn't sign any contracts, blah blah blah. Oof. And it was honor system trust, and we thought, we went to dinner with her. We were like, oh, we like this person, good person. We thought, and went to go get our money, and she was like, oh, actually, I moved that money into a development project in Reno. And that was like 6-7 years ago. Haven't seen the money since, haven't seen her since. So,
wow.
Yeah. So, moral of the story there is one, do your due diligence, get everything in writing, get everything in paperwork, right? Lawyers are expensive, but they're also very important as well. And trust but verify. Right?
Absolutely.
We were just too trusting, and we were taken advantage of.
Yeah. And to add to that, I mean, if things seem too easy, chances are there's probably something wrong there.
Yeah.
It should be difficult. It should be hard to get to the point that Calvin you're at. There should be hurdles that you're going to have to overcome, situations to where you've never been in before, and that's why you create a network of people that you can rely and trust on.
Yep.
Yep. So that being said, is there anything else you want to add before we wrap this up?
I think the only thing to add on that story too is, I guess the second part of the lesson there is, how you take things too is so important, right?
Mm-hmm.
The perspective, right? So that one person could take that same situation where one person could say, I'm gonna lay down and die. Like, I'm not gonna do this anymore. I'm out. Right. Versus what we did was say, that sucks, but how can we grow from that?
That's very
right?
true.
Why is it happening to me versus why is it happening for me?
Right.
If you take that latter approach, then then you can grow from that and never make the same mistake again, and look back at that situation, and we wouldn't be where we are right now if it wasn't for that. So I'm grateful for that situation. Did it suck at the time?
Right.
Hell yeah, it did.
Mm-hmm.
But sitting here 7 years later, I have no regrets in life. I'm so happy that happened, and I wish her the best of luck in her life.
That's awesome.
Right?
And I relate that same concept back to a college education, right? You can get a college education for, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of dollars and then go and apply that. Or you want to flip a house, go flip a house and learn. You may come up $10,000 short, but guess what? It's still cheaper than a college education. And then the idea is, if you continue down that path and learn from it, that was a damn cheap education.
Yeah.
Right?
College is expensive.
Very.
People always say that. They're like, oh man, it seems really expensive to get educated. Well, how much does college cost? What do you actually use? Unless you're like a accountant or an engineer,
Right.
or something
Doctor, attorney, you're right.
No, just
Then-
go get your marketing courses. Go get your business.
Meet
CPA.
people. I think
Yeah.
the idea is meet people. Get into different circles that you've never been in. I think the idea behind, and I talked about it a while back with another person, was getting into rooms you've never been in before. And I think the idea or concept behind that is once you start getting into rooms you've never been in before, you then become the student again.
Yeah.
At a certain point, you get to a level and you're like, all right, you look around, who can I learn from here? Not that I can't learn anything from everybody, but I want to learn some things that I never had the opportunity to learn before.
Yeah.
I haven't paid your fee yet to go to your school. However, I have received a big education from you over the years, and I'm still working towards the goals that I've been inspired by you and Jenny, and even some of your students. So even your sister, I just helped her buy her first Airbnb in November. She's managing it by herself, and she's become a really good friend of mine. My daughter adores her, and I'm like, okay, we're gonna do this too.
Yeah, she's
awesome.
crushing, and I love that because it's you go back to real estate as a vehicle. Like even Christina, she's on this trip right now. She's out there in the cubicle right now.
Yeah,
and it's so cool because she's so excited. We just had a conversation right before that. She just flew in, and she's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna have like 10 of these." And I was like, "She's like, I want to quit my job." And she's like, "How do I do that?" I'm like, "Well, how much are you making on your Airbnb?" She's making a lot of money on her Airbnb.
I had a little discussion with her about that too, and
I'm like, I'm pretty sure you're pretty much good to go.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. If you're okay to keep
With
the
10?
lifestyle the same way,
Right,
I mean, that's what it boils down to. If you
Exactly.
can live within your means, it's pretty simple to go about that. But I think as we start making money, as does the spending.
Right, but how you use your time back? So let's say she quits her 45, 50-hour job a week. Okay, well I have 50 hours back in my life. Am I going to be able to make more money?
Right.
What am I going to do in that 50 hours?
Watch Netflix.
Yeah, if you don't watch Netflix and do nothing, keep your job, right?
That's right. That's right.
But if you're gonna go out and do something, you're gonna go network, you're gonna go build some stuff, then the sky's the limit.
That's
and you get taxed
awesome.
differently too. So.
Amen. Yes. You start creating all kinds of different tax shelters.
Yep.
So, Calvin, how do the listeners out there get a hold of you if they're trying to get more education from you, if they're trying to hear from an expert? And I only have experts on this show. How do they get a hold of you?
Well, first off, I'd say I'm not an expert, right? Just back to your point, no one's an expert, right?
I agree.
I always gotta say
100%.
beginner's
We're
mindset.
always learning.
Exactly.
Yes.
And so that's one part. But yeah, you can find me easiest way, zencoastuniversity.com, or on my Instagram, I think it's Calvin Shin, CHINREI.
Very good.
Yeah.
REI. Very good.
solid beginner.
Amen.
Solid
to that.
beginner. Yeah. Always have the beginner's mindset.
I love that. Well, guys, this is to be continued as always. If you're getting something out of this, if you grabbed a nugget that you can potentially take to the bank and cash, please share this with a friend. You never know who needs to hear something like this, and you never know if you're the person that could change their life today. That being said, I'm Mark Jones, your host, and we will catch you on the next one.